Okay, today I'm going to do something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I have the workflow for it now. I just never tried it, and that is designing a more complex instrument than just sort of my standard nodes using the code generator. So like writing the instrument first in the dynamic language, and then producing low-level Rust code from that, and then using that low-level Rust code to define a node, which I can then use in the dynamic language. I think I can probably always write instruments more efficiently without doing that, more efficiently in terms of execution, but it's nice to work in the dynamic language in terms of like design. So that's what we're going to try and do. So I've got this set up, and I know that there is a style of lead voice that I keep making over and over. So I'm just going to try and make a reusable version of that today. And it's not complicated. It's just it's a thing that's designed to have like relatively low harmonic content. So it's basically just some detuned sine waves, and I kind of like how it sounds. So so it starts off real simple. Just several oscillators, each of them playing a sine at a particular pitch. Just start with that. And each of them enveloped, so we'll give it an envelope. And I think they're going to have separate envelopes, so we'll use an ADSR envelope with a... I'm going to try and organize into the inputs that I think I'm going to take. So, maybe an attack, and a decay, and we'll just not worry about sustain. So, 0, 1, I'm sorry, not decay here, release. So, a configurable attack, no decay, a sustain of 1, and then a configurable release. That'll be good to start with. And then a trigger, and just initially we'll make that just a basic clock. Actually, let's just so this sounds like something. Let's do sampled noise. From the trigger. Okay, so that'll make some sort of noise. KKK, and then something like that. So let's just see what that sounds like. Okay, so that should play. And it doesn't. It does, but it's very quiet. Because that's not doing what I think it is. Spread this out across an octave. There we go. Okay. So that's, not at all interesting. It's just an envelope sine wave. We get a little more interesting by stacking some layers on top. We'll start by giving it the same envelope and just do overtones. So I think I've been doing 4, and that sounds pretty good. So we'll start with that. So you can sort of see why I wouldn't necessarily want to just rebuild this every time I write a thing, because just a lot to type out. I need some sort of overall gain. Okay. So that's that. And then, so we want to make the upper voices behave a little bit differently. Also detune. So let's think about detuning. I think I only want one detune parameter. So, and we'll just say that's going to be a number between 0 and 1 that indicates like the amount of detuning. So we'll start with something in the middle, and we're going to say that, let's do it this way. So, scale my detune is going to be between 0 and 10 hertz. I don't really know what the right amount is. Something like that. And then just gonna slap that on these guys too. But their ranges are going to be different. Is that what I want? No, I don't think it is. I think I want just this to be slightly different. That didn't make any audible difference, which I find very confusing. Okay. Maybe this scale is just wrong. That's a lot. So. Okay, something like that. Probably want to adjust that a little bit, but okay. And then let's see. I want the higher frequencies to be faster, so let's just start with this. This may not actually be what I want. So this is starting to sound a little bit more like the voice that I intend to produce. was for this to be a gate. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Okay, I could work on this a bunch more, and that might be worth doing, but it is. That's basically what I want, so let's just stick with that. No, I'm missing one of my oscillators. Okay. Cool. Okay. So there's my voice. And now I want to think about how to set this up so that the code that this thing generates will be easy to turn into, something actually useful. This could be tricky. I haven't really thought this through because I need to basically stack these things up. I don't really have a good way to do that so that they're all. So instead of individual constants, they're like a bunch of inputs. That's not something I have a tool for, so I might have to build that tool. First off, let's make them all actually constants. Turn this off because it's going to be annoying. Okay. Okay, so let's just look at what the generated code is like. I think I can just go that. Or cargo build is all I really needed. Cool. Okay. So let's see. Where is the generated code? I don't remember. It is somewhere here. It's called synth.synth, but it ends up deep inside the synth.rs, but it ends up deep inside the goo. Okay. Debug. This one probably? No, that is way too complicated. It's this one. Also way too complicated. Nope, definitely not that. Let's just get rid of these. How do I actually do this? That is not a cargo command. Okay, just need to update that. Because the problem was I deleted those files, but the build script, this guy, only reruns if this file changes, which hadn't happened. So it didn't rerun the build script, but the generated code was gone, and so it was sad about that. Okay. Now this has to be what I just generated. And I guess that is my code. I was just confused before. Okay. So, oh, good lord, that is quite the blob. I mean, I could pretty print this to make it a little bit more readable, but I don't know. Let's just see. I mean, this is, let's see. This is an ugly solution, but it's expedient. If I take these things and I turn each of them into an explicit bridge, so I say pitch in, pitch out. Oh, let's do this. Pitch attack release trigger D2 max D2. And I actually don't think that one needs to be configurable. These are gone now. So this will not run, but it should, I think, build. Not implemented. Oh, I don't have explicit bridges in my code generator. Org. Let's see, maybe that's quick to do. I forgot that I hadn't actually finished that part. I think this is going to be relatively fast to make, because I just need to. I have a bridge name already. I need to put something in the map. Don't need to have any edges. Bridge name. Source name, source port. The bridge name is going to be the nodes are maybe just putting it in the bridge map is all I need. No, that's not right. How do I make the bridges? Let's see. Yes, it is the bridge map, and it makes it by those mangled names, but I need a specific name, so I can't mangle it. I mean, what if I just do this? Say, move this up so I have it available where I need it, and that. I'm just going to stuff something into the output code. It's going to be my two names, which I already have. equals that. The two names are the input name and the output name. And then I probably need nodes. Do I care? Let's see. You care about nodes. Under what context? I think that matters. Node name. Source. Okay, so it does need an entry in nodes. No, does it? Let me see if this runs. No. Process didn't exit, and it's going to be complaining about a missing node. So, panicked at. That's fine. So, doop. Let's see. When this makes a node, it puts the output here. So we'll just do the same thing. Right. No, this makes sense. Yeah, it does need this. Okay. Because this is how it inserts the output of the bridge into the places where it's consumed. That makes total sense. Okay. It's going to be that. Do I need to do that same thing with the input? Because that's also going to appear. I don't think so. Very sad. Review that. Okay, that still can't build. It's the same problem. Let's see, what am I missing? So this is going to all of the nodes, and it's going to check to see if it's processed them all. And stuff goes into processed how. Okay. So it goes into process if it was into process. Fine. To process is. There's two process. So I haven't looked at this code in several weeks, so I don't really remember how it works. Is So this is looking at everything that doesn't have any inputs currently. Um, so that. Okay. All right. Okay. So now this is a little bit easier to think about, because what I've got is I have these bridges, which represent all of my parameters. And so now I should be able to take this and basically turn it into, this produces a node that has 0 inputs and a stereo output, 2 channels. And I should be able to easily transform this into something that has, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 inputs. This is a little bit awkward because I don't have a good way to express like defaults, in the way that a lot of modular stuff has. Like if you don't plug something into a port, that port has some sort of default value that it'll just use. I don't have a way to express that right now, so I'll have to carefully do that. Okay, but so first off, let's start by taking this generated code, just copying it up into the parent project, which is the parent of this directory, into its source, and we'll just call this voices, because maybe I'm going to build more than one of these. So now we're done there, and we can look at this. Okay, so first off, let's actually make this module. Now it is super unhappy. Module instruments. Okay. That's interesting. I think this is a problem with my code generator. It's not doing this import, which it probably should be. That's fine. Worry about that later. 2. That's right. Is it that? Underscore before the 2. Okay. So now everything should be reasonable. Okay. Alright, so we're going to call this lead voice, just for lack of a better name. And we know there's 5 inputs. Okay, so this should complain about that. Good. That's what we want. So now, how do we make those 5 inputs? So it's going to have to be, we're going to have to do a bunch of branching. This is going to be a pain to write, but let's just think about it. So that we're going to have to split for each of these. There's going to be 1 split, 4 splits, no, 3 splits, and then an extra. So the extra is just going to be that. And then this is going to be a split, and then another split, which is I should think about what order these actually want to be in, because right now they're just random. Okay, I think that's good. And then we should be able to just basically tag this onto the overall thing. Computationally, this is going to be doing a bunch of extra work that it doesn't really need to do, but whatever. Let's just do... So that's the bulk of the thing. And then the actual final inputs is going to be... Actually, let's just try this. And this should still complain, but it should complain about the output side, not the input side. Oh, good lord. And even I can't read that error message. Tight mismatch. Yeah, super don't know. If let's see, if I pipe this in, and then just do like a really stupid output, like a stack of sine waves. It's not a sine wave, it's a wave. Oh, sine. Oh no, this gets more complicated because it needs an input. Okay, never mind. That's just no longer simple. But we know it needs to be this, so... Right. But there's something missing in the middle here. Super don't know what that means. Because this is going to have 5 inputs and 5 outputs. And this has 0 inputs. So I need to drop those 5 outputs somehow. And that is going to be... I have a... What do I have? It's I have some tool for doing this. Strip, maybe? Pass? No. The opposite of pass. What did I call it? Branch. Sync? Is this it? And this takes an input of any type and produces output of nothing. So sync is what I want. Okay. So if I pipe that into a sync, it's not getting what I want. That's still totally impenetrable. Let's give this an explicit type. What is it? It's generic over A. A is an array length. So I should be able to go this U5. Really? a little confused why this isn't working. This is what I was trying to do earlier. Stack needs a constructor. Yeah. Expected blah blah blah. Redundant hidden requirement. uint, uint. So these are things that are coming out of the generic array stuff. But I'm not sure quite what they mean. Because the U term is it's like the last thing it sticks on its compile time list. So I got some sort of number that doesn't line up. What is... I know that's wrong. Just say, what is this, right? So just make up something and then immediately drop it. So that should be that, but it's still not happy. Why is that? Expected struct U-term. What if I don't do that? What if I just give it the stack? Type mismatch resolving. Maybe I can't use stack this way. What I really want is I would like to thread all those inputs through sort of naturally through this tree rather than trying to do this thing which is just involves a lot of extra copying I shouldn't need to do. And isn't as simple as I thought it was. So one way I could do that is I could have a node that takes in an arbitrary number of inputs and outputs an arbitrary. So I could basically have an identity node whose length is undefined. Does my identity node already do that? No. But can I make it generic? So let's see. I had in sync this way of constructing these generics over links. So if I use that here, it's gonna need all of this stuff. Okay, and then it is the same in, the same out. No, this doesn't give me what I want. That's garbage. Okay. So what I really want is I want to be able to define some sort of input node that I can then reference. So what does that mean? I mean, maybe that is what I was doing before did make sense. If I take this, they're both A, and I do actually need this because I'm just going to pass it along. So obviously this is nothing but like a type system trick, but now I can, if I add it here, maybe I already have it. No, I was using it for constants. No, but this is more complicated because I can't have a dynamic node unless I have a known number of inputs. Oh crap. So and also I think actually, there we go. So let's just say this is a generic identity, which I'm not going to use in the dynamic world. Then I have another one that's like this, but it's a and just call it inputs because that's what I'm going to use it for right now. And it's dumb. It just takes 10 ports in, puts 10 ports out. What's the biggest number you have? 8? Really? Oh. I just didn't import them all. So now it takes 10 ports in, 10 ports out. We're going to make a dynamic node out of that. These guys. Okay, we're going to go to the synth. And so we're going to say that I have a node called inputs, and it is of type inputs. And it's going to look like this. So attack. Let's put trigger first. Trigger is port 0. Pitch is port 1. Attack is port 2. K is port 3. Release. Is that all of my things? So in detune. Okay, so now I've got one node, this inputs, that's going to get slapped on the top of the thing, hopefully. Let's see if this actually builds. We'll build with this stuff in here, which I can just get rid of because I'm going to delete it all anyway. Okay. I'm going to recreate it. Cool. Right. So now, cool. We see it made some bridges, which is what I was expecting. That's good. All right. Problem is the inputs is way down here. This is pretty hard to look at. But it is doing, so it's like... I think it's doing all the right stuff, just not quite in the order that I need. I could make a magic inputs node and like build that into the syntax. And maybe that's what I have to do. Not super thrilled about that. But what would that look like? I mean, if I were to do that, then I wouldn't define this node, and I would have an implicit thing, or maybe I would define it. but this is magic syntax, and but what do I do with it? I need to somehow just push it to the top, so it's always the base of the tree. Um, I mean, one thing I can do is I can sort of see how many ports on inputs are used, and then when I guess it's actually in code generator. Here, and then when I make the function, build sense, is it called? What do I call it? Oh, that's because it's not actually here. It's in here. Where do I make build sense? Oh, the build script. Okay, that's maybe a little too confusing. Um, yeah. Oh, okay. I gotta take a break for a second. All right. After taking a break for a second, get some tea, and start dinner. Um, I think I have a way to do this that is going to work. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to accumulate my inputs into like an imaginary input node in the same way I can accumulate the outputs into an imaginary output node. And then I'm going to have this toRust actually return the source as well as the input count. And then this becomes that. Cool. So that's pretty straightforward. And then, oops, like that. So this has to be this now. Okay. So now we're ready for that. And let me just remind myself of how the outputs are handled in this one. Don't think there's really anything special about it. Okay, so when we do the sort, there's a handling, or when we do the processing, but I don't care about that for this because it's not going to do it. when I do the sort, which I don't actually think I use that for the code generator. So it doesn't matter there either. Now, okay, so if I have an edge whose destination is output, not output, input. All right, I already have handling for inputs because of my previous dynamic node generation stuff, which is different than this but related. So that's already in there. So this might just work. That's cool. Okay. Yeah, ideally this would be integrated with the dynamic node stuff, which I would fix and then integrate, but I don't know, can't have everything. Okay, so this makes a synthetic output node. I probably am going to need to also make a synthetic input node, but I need to know how many inputs it has. So I'm going to accumulate, but how many inputs it has is the same number as how many outputs it has. Cool. And I'm going to get that. Has to come from my edges. Destination node, source node. Okay, so I think I'm just going to explicitly collect this, which is fine. So we'll say global input count, just assume it's 0, and then if I see any, no, this doesn't work, inputs ports, because I need to count unique ports, not total number of edges. So we're just going to use a set. Now, if the source node equals input, then we go global input add is it insert? Insert? Cool. Okay. I think that's going to be a reference. You want to dereference. Okay. So now I know I know which input ports I'm referencing. What do I care about? I guess, like, if I reference a port that I don't use, I can't reference the port that I don't use. If I have non-sequential ports, so like I use port 0 and port 2 but not port 1, that's weird, probably a mistake, but not necessarily an error. It could just be like the middle of refactoring something. So let's not make that an error. So what I need to do is I need to go, like I did for output, I'm going to make a synthetic input node, I think. It's going to be called input, and it's going to be that. This isn't going to work. I'll just see what it looks like. And it's going to have 0 inputs because I'm going to fake that, but it's going to have this global input ports dot iter dot max. I think that's right. And then no, this function takes okay. Very good. Okay, cool. All right. So now, if I go back to my example, don't need that anymore. To make this symmetric with output, I'm going to say input singular instead of plural. Okay. And then I'm going to need, let's do this. Input count equals, because I'm going to need to reference this later. Because way down here, when I actually return the code, it's going to be, here we go, this guy. I also need to return. Cool. Okay. So this is still not going to be, it's not quite right, but let's just see what it produces. Okay, doesn't work. Input. It's the same thing here. What have I done? Input to string. The input should have been in my two-process list immediately. Yet it never is. And I think really I don't actually want it to be. But it should be if things are working the way they think they are. So why is that? Two-process. Because I seed two-process with... Okay, I think I need this. some in the wrong order. Let's say you return a string and a number, and the build script expects string and a number, and this is backwards. Okay, this is basically the same error I was seeing when I was trying to do effectively the same thing by hand. And I think it's because like this is just malstructured. Right, because this is the same problem I had before, basically. My input node is down here. But what I need basically to imagine that I have something like piping the input into whatever else I've got. So it can't be there, it needs to be somewhere else. Okay, so this is actually the problem I was expecting to have, which is good. But I'm not 100% sure how to fix it. Because basically I need to, I pretended like I have this input node, but I need to get it somehow in the root. Let's see, how do I do this? Basically, I just need to clip everything in the tree before input. Does that actually work? There sure is a bunch of stuff here. You just need and this is doing what I wanted to do, which is to automatically build the bridges for the input. It's basically the same thing I was doing by hand before. Okay. I need to go stir something on the stove. Okay. Let's see. So I'm still trying to figure out how to migrate the input so it's actually an input. What does that mean? I'm a little confused about why there are outputs for the input from the input being used before the input to feed other bridges. I know that I'm not doing the topo sort that I would need to do to guarantee that bridges are executing in the right order, which I'm just not worried about right now because it means that bridges could potentially have an unexpected one sample delay in them. Because they're basically they're backwards. If you put them forwards, then they wouldn't have the delay. So these are examples where these bridges are backwards and have a delay, but they're all input stuff. Okay. So what I want is I just want the input to be first, always. Doesn't matter what else is going on, the input should always be first. So and what if I just put a sort on this that is like just the name, okay. So if it's input, then it's a low value, else it's a high value. So I don't care what the order of anything is, except input has to be first. Let's see if that does what I need. Okay. Did not have the effect I was expecting. It's because, why is it? Yeah, it's because that processor doesn't really matter. As usual, I think there's something here I'm just not thinking clearly about. Why are the bridges getting used to make like signs and stuff before the input is run? I mean, maybe I don't need to figure this out. No, I do. Let's see, so how do I decide where the actual thing goes rather than its bridges? It's here. here. Because I go, if I have seen the node already, I make a bridge. Otherwise, I have the actual thing. But none of these are sorted. I mean, what I really want is I want input to not appear in that graph at all. I want it to be sort of implicitly on the outside. So I really don't want an input node at all. I want to be able to strip it off. So, what does that mean? I mean, I guess part of this is like I don't really have a concept of the first node, because I keep saying root when I'm talking about input, but that's not actually true. Input is some of the leaves of the tree, but not necessarily all of them, because some of the leaves might come from constants. And the root of the tree is the output. So what I'm doing is I'm basically bundling some of the leaves together and saying those come from another place. And maybe my original idea of making explicit bridges for each of the input ports is the right one. Because in practice, the way this code generator works, they're basically, all but one of them will have a bridge anyway. And so all I'm doing is I'm adding one extra bridge that didn't absolutely need to be there. There potentially with a better optimizer on this, any optimizer on this, I could maybe remove some of the other bridges, but I don't currently do that. So currently, the only thing that it would add is one bridge, which is not a big deal, especially for like a node like this is going to be used to build, which will be like a complete voice. It's like a relatively complex thing, so just like slapping one additional copy onto it per sample is per block, not even per sample, is not that big a deal. So that's not a thing I need to optimize, I think. So really the question there is, how do I construct a node that can fill a bunch of bridges and then have zero outputs? And what if I just do that? I think I am dumb for not thinking of this earlier. So I have bridge here, which is 1 wide. But what if I make the width of this generic? And how would I do that? That's actually a little complicated. Is it? No, it's not actually complicated. Let's think about this. So, is it a Raylan? I think that's the right type. And then this is going to be okay. I've already got a type for this, which is like an array of these things. Cool. Um, okay, I'm just going to get rid of this. Instead, we're going to implement default, because this has always bothered me anyway. And then I need that type. Oh. That doesn't actually work. No. Default is actually not what I can use for here. Use here. Because I need to return two things, but I still want the type. So it's got to be new. Doesn't need an input. We're going to think about our constant. And this is one of these guys. 2x8. Oh, how do I do this generically? I don't know. Because I don't know how many things this has. Okay. But I need the non-macro version of this, which has to be here somewhere. As mute slice, from mute slice. Just give me from like a value. Clone from slice. Default. Under what conditions do you implement default? You implement default. T implements default. And T... Oh, maybe it does. I know previously I was using a different SIMD primitive that didn't implement default and was super annoying. But maybe this one does. Okay, so our constant is probably not doing what I want. Let's go take a look at that code. Yeah, this is non-generic. I don't know how widely I use this. I may not want to actually change this code right now. No, maybe it's just in bridge. Okay. In that case, I don't care. I should get rid of all this dead code. It's sort of embarrassing to have it in there. Okay, so now our constant is going to have the same type. All the same stuff. this does need to take a value. A little bit annoying. But it's fine, because it's just going to be this. This is, oops, not that. This is that. Okay. Fine, I need to type now. And this is A in both cases. And this is that instead. Cool, that was easier than I was expecting. Okay, assuming it works. There's going to be a couple of places where I need to change how I do the bridge. So that's no longer a thing. Guess that's true. That's fine. The type is simple. It was just that. Cool. Alright, is there anywhere else I'm going to need to change that? Maybe in code generation. Yeah. Anything else in new types? Doesn't hurt, certainly. Okay. So now I have these generic wide bridges that can do multiple values, which is fine. That's actually a thing I kind of wanted anyway. So that means I can make this into a bridge. Okay, time to go stir again. All right. I realize there's one more thing I need with, no, not that. With this node before I can actually use it. I made the bridge. Yeah, I need the bridge to... No, I could do this with the sink, I think. Okay. That's fine. So, never mind. So what I need is, okay, so this is no longer actually a node. People have its inputs, but it doesn't exist in the graph. And does that work? Okay, cool. So what that should give me, and it didn't. Let's see. that's not the error I think it is. You were wrong. Why are you wrong? What? As expression. There's no as expression there. Oh, goodness. I mean, there's something weird going on inside that macro. Okay. So I must not be giving it the type it expects. Why would that be? The arc constant. So what is this then? What I'm expecting this to be is to be a ports A. And it is. Oh, dark. Because don't need that extra thing there. Because it's already the right type. I don't have to make it into a generic array. Okay. That's the error I was hoping not to see. So that means that the generator is confused with this check because it doesn't think it has anything left to process. It hasn't hit the output yet. Okay. Let's see. Don't care about that anymore. Why would that happen? It would be because it's not processing. There's some node upstream that should be processed that isn't. Okay, so what is this doing? This is input count. So I actually don't want to increment input count. If it's, this is getting confusing. If it's coming from an external input, which is what this means, I don't want to increment the input count in this accumulator, because that's only for sort of stuff that's internal to the graph. Okay. I think that's probably the source of this. Nope. No, it's a different error. Why are you doing that thing? Okay. Okay. Because you tried to get the source node and you can't. Right. Because it's not a node. Why do you need the code for it? But the code is just going to be nothing. Okay, so what I need here is I need what I do for the output nodes of the bridges, which is, so I guess I do need so let's see, 4 P and so for every unique port that I'm using on the inputs, I'm gonna stick a node in. Stick a node in. No, that's not what I want. Stick a node in. Its name is, I know I just took this out. Its name is input. Its code is code is input. Colon and two string are the same thing there. It has 0 inputs and it has this number of outputs. Panicked at attack identity. If input count destination node. Okay, it's because inputs. Attack identity. Input count from attack to identity. And attack isn't an input count. That's because attack is one of these. Just a regular node, why wouldn't that have an input count? Because this doesn't do what I think it does. Why doesn't this put it in an input count? The destination node. Destination node is attack. if let line node. Oh, let's see. Is there something that I'm doing here? Add a node. So here's my generic case. Well, I'm looking in the wrong place. Here. This is dumb. Just show me what you do. Okay. That code ran. Which means attack is in the input count. And yet here, input count and destination knows my attack, because that was in the error message. It's not there. Okay, so it's getting removed from somewhere. Under what circumstances does that happen? If it's been drained. Okay. And it would be drained because it itself has 0 inputs, which means it's eligible for processing. And that's fine. This doesn't need to be mutable anymore. Okay, so that shouldn't be a problem, though, because that's just normal processing. So why does that cause an issue? So why is... What are we doing down here? We are looking through edges. Nodes, destination node, identity. Why is the code for attack identity? Maybe that's my problem. There's something going on there. Okay, so what if I suspect there's a bug, but I don't actually know what it is. So let's just see if we can change the structure of this to not trigger whatever the bug is. So just do some garbage processing that wraps that differently. Okay. So there's some problem there with the structure of that. And I'm just not going to worry about it right now. Okay, and indeed that node is gone. I'm not going to try and figure out what this says, because I should now be able to go, if I return the quote code, should be able to go output puts code equals format. Actually, I just do it in here. Encode remove. Okay. This is fine. So this will be my bridges and stuff. This is the actual thing. Okay. So what I want to do is I just want to slap a new pipe on the beginning of this. It's going to be like pipe. I need to build. Okay. Before I do that, I need to go up here where I build my regular bridges. What happens here? And we're gonna go if input count is greater than 0. If it's 0, I don't need one of these input bridges. But if it's greater than 0, I do. So in that case, it's gonna look sort of like this. And don't really need any of this. I guess it doesn't look much like that. It's going to look like input. It's going to be a bridge, but it's going to be a different length bridge than that. And the length is going to be and actually, this does have two sides. The output side is called input, confusingly. The input side is called, I don't know, input. Okay. So now I can go here and pipe input. I need to swallow the output of that with a sync. Hopefully I don't actually have to say what type that is. It would be hard to think about, but okay. Let's try that. Okay. Structure, sync needs to be default. Well, that means it did generate the code, which is not expected. This is that same error that we're getting. Make it happy. Oops. What does that mean? Build reset. expected struct do end found struct new term. This has to mean that this type is wrong. Oh! No, I'm just dumb. That part's fine. This part's the problem, because this is assuming that there's zero inputs, but there's non-zero inputs. Okay, so this might actually be working. So let's try this again. And again, we're going to call this lead voice. The stuff I already did before and don't remember anymore. Okay. That's kind of exciting. So now we go here. Should be able to say and just cannibalize this because I'm not actually using it. It's going to be no. I think that works. So now I should be able to make a new thing in the music playground, and we'll call this lead test synth, and it's going to look like of course I don't remember what any of the parameters are, but that's fine. Let's see, I think the first one was trigger, go to clock, the second one was pitch, like that, and then attack, and release. Maybe that's it. All right, so let's see. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So what does that mean? That means I need to, in examples, graph, need to import from voices. It's not. What do I call it? Yeah. Use of undeclared crate or module voices. How is it undeclared? Oh, wait. Do I need it? I guess it's where the macro is getting executed. Okay, that's dumb. But no, that's not right. SMT graph. Okay. So here's where I'm doing it for the other stuff. So I should be able to. Yeah. So my voice is right. Syntax right. Are we happy? Unused import. Right. I need to clean that up. That's garbage, but whatever. Clone not implemented. Okay. Should be. I just need to put that bound on it. Oh, noise at least. That's cool. So that probably means I have the parameter order wrong. Let's think about this. It was so the order is trigger, pitch, attack, release, detune. I didn't set a detune. Like that. Trigger, pitch. That's true, that is 4. Okay. Because there's a problem here. It is not actually this. It is 0 if there's nothing. If there is something, it's actually 1 more than this. So, and then no map. Just bump it by 1. I think that works. So this workflow is a little bit awkward because now I'm gonna have to copy the code over. But that's not a big deal. Anything else change? This other stuff changes, except that 5. So I could come up with a better workflow here. But that's fine. 5, 5, okay. Well, not quite what I was expecting. Double check. Trigger, pitch, tack, release, detune. Trigger, pitch, tack, release, detune. Okay. Okay, it's doing something. That sure doesn't look like a sine wave, though. That looks like a really awkward square wave. Doesn't seem like it's responding to that parameter at all. Or that one. Okay, let's think about it. Did I screw something up here? Well, one thing is that this is actually a stereo, which I didn't think about. And it is, I think, not the issue, but yeah, because as you'd expect, those are the same, or so similar. I don't see the difference. Okay, this is an ADSR, but I'm sure not giving it a gate. Let's give it a sequence. Whatever. Nothing. Initialize sequence because code's terrible. So now I'm going to get the gate off of this, which is not the first, not the second, but the third port. And the okay, different. It's different. And it's clicking, so it's clearly responding to the gate. But not in the way I expected to. See anything in that. Let's see, can I get it to tell me? This is really hard to express. What is it? It is pitch. What it's called? It doesn't need the defaults. I guess save changes, so it only takes one value. Okay, I think that's still gonna barf, but it's fine. So this needs to be another layer deep with a sink on it. Super awkward, but not normally writing this kind of code right now, so. And then need to take this out. That's just gonna be noise. Use this. Okay. Not working. So why is that? Bridge in pitch. Bridge out input 1. Okay, that it's never set, so there's no value going into it. And that is because what I actually want here is not that, but this. Input dot clone. What did they call my index operation? Index port. That's a thing I pipe. Okay. So it is 0th port. The other end. So this into index port 0. Ugh. Okay. Oh, because I got the trigger pitches on the second port. Okay. But that's good, because that's what I would expect the gate to look like. It's almost always high. And there's my pitches. Okay. So that part's working. But my code generation is broken, so. Okay. I've already forgotten what I was doing. Oh, the indexing stuff, right. Okay. So what that means is that in cases where I have an input rather than some other kind of bridge, I need to handle it differently. Is that right? Or I could do it here, maybe? Input count. So I could make a node for that. Something like if in this one, basically I'm making a bridge, but I already have the bridge. And so I need to do the same thing. I don't think I care about the bridge map. I think this works. And then same. I've already taken care of that elsewhere. No. Yes. It's the same thing. It's this. It's just I don't go through this consume nodes path. Source node's input, I already know that. Okay. I think that's good. That is not what I was expecting. So this is a little more complicated because I need to clone that stuff. It's actually this. Cool, that's the good error. Okay, this awkward copy and paste, but that's fine. Okay, now let's see if this makes a noise. Cool. That is a terrible noise. Let's... but I think it's the right noise. Okay, cool. So there's clicking in there because the voice isn't actually very good, but I made the workflow work, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to stop because this is already super long and not particularly interesting. And then I'll think about making a better voice later, but I just wanted to make that workflow work, and it does. So cool. That's pretty exciting.